Having a family pet or furry companion go missing can be one of the most heartbreaking moments in a person's life. But even if a pet is lost, that doesn't mean all hope has to be lost too. From cats that traveled thousands of miles to dogs that survived being lost at sea, here are some stories of amazing pets that returned home after going missing. The Three Musketeers. When Kyle Cryer's black Labrador Bo ran off into the wilds of Concordia, Kansas back in 2019, he believed he'd lost the family dog forever. Bo had been chasing another white dog near their home before he bolted out of sight without returning. After searching all night, Kyle was beginning to give up hope when he received a call about a black Labrador running wild on a road nearby. When Kyle went to check it out, he didn't just find Bo, but also a new pair of friends he'd made along the way. They included a white Labrador, and of all things, a goat.
Hey goat, you want to get in my truck too? Come on, hop in there. Everybody just get in. Come on, yep, hop in. I'll take you all with me, yep. I got a goat and 2 dogs in my truck.
Bo instinctively hopped into Kyle's truck, followed closely by the other 2. The inseparable trio were happily taken home, where it was discovered that the goat actually belonged to Kyle's next-door neighbors, and the other Labrador also lived nearby. With all the animal pals living so close together, it seems this might not be the last adventure of Bo and Co. The Nomadic Cat. In December 2018, one cat's journey home baffled scientists after it traveled over 195 miles along the Florida coastline. Holly, the tortoiseshell-colored cat, bolted from her owner's RV while they were setting up camp outside the Daytona Speedway back in November 2018. Devastated, her owners Jacob and Bonnie Richter scoured the area for days, but ultimately had to return home to West Palm Beach without Holly. However, 2 months later, a disheveled little cat turned up near their home. She was emaciated, her paws were bleeding, and her back claws had been badly worn down, indicating that she'd walked a very long way. After being checked for an identifying microchip, a rescue agency confirmed that, incredibly, it was Holly. Her vet believes she made the almost 200-mile journey on her own, but scientists have yet to explain how Holly knew she was homeward bound. Do cats have built-in homing powers we have yet to fully understand? Or is there another explanation for how Holly managed to navigate her way home? Let me know what you think in the comments below. The Spanish-speaking parrot. In 2010, when Nigel the African gray parrot flew away from his home in Torrance, California, his British-born owner Darren Chick was left heartbroken. He had taught Nigel to mimic human speech with a clear British accent, making him one of a kind in the local area. But for 4 years, the parrot remained hopelessly missing. That was until one day when a local Torrance residents found the chatty bird in their yard. Nigel was identified and finally returned to his home, but his owner Darren was in for a shock, because Nigel now occasionally spoke words in perfect Spanish. This strange story was covered by the Torrance Daily Breeze, who then received a surprising follow-up email about Nigel's missing years. The parrot had apparently been living with another family, having been bought at a local garage sale shortly after leaving his original owner's home. Over the years, the new family's grandfather had become close to the bird, teaching it Spanish phrases, but Nigel eventually escaped again like some sort of feathery Houdini. When he realized his newly returned pet had spent the past 4 years bonding with a new family, Darren ultimately decided to return Nigel back to his Spanish-speaking home. Hopefully, that'll be the last time Nigel bids adios to his amigos. Dog of the Decade. If you're ever unfortunate enough to have a dog go missing, speed is of the essence. According to the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, the chances of finding a missing pet after 24 hours is only about 55%. But after going missing for 10 years, Abby the Black Labrador managed to give those odds a run for their money. Abby had run away from her home in Pittsburgh, America while playing in the garden in 2008. Despite owner Deborah Sewerveld's best efforts to find Abby, after years of searching, she finally gave up hope. But in 2018, the Labrador showed up on a front porch just 10 miles from where she went missing. After having her microchip checked, she was returned to her long-lost family. She was in good condition, indicating that someone had taken care of her during all that time. But at some point, for whatever reason, Abby had clearly decided it was about time to come home. Maybe the long vacation was a long game attempt to convince her owners to start buying her the premium kibble? Presumably it worked. Cat of the Outback. Despite countless fascinating studies into the wonders of animal navigation, no theory has ever definitively explained the amazing return of Howie the Persian cat. Back in 1978, this pampered indoor cat was left with its Australian owner's relatives near the Gold Coast of Queensland while the family went on vacation. Somehow though, he managed to get outside and went missing. And being so far from home, the chances of finding him seemed slim. With no luck searching, the Hicks family were eventually forced to return home. But one day, just over a year later, the family, back home in Adelaide, found a matted, filthy Persian cat on their doorstep. Unbelievably, it was their old cat Howie. He'd managed to navigate his way home across almost 1,000 miles of one of the world's most unforgiving deserts, the Australian outback. Seeing as all this occurred in a time before microchipping, there are some doubts that this was really the same cat. After all, the odds of a house cat surviving for so long in the dangerous conditions of the desert while managing to navigate across such long distances seems insurmountably slim. But according to Howie's owner, Kristen Hicks, despite all the filthy fur and bloody paws, the cat was purring and apparently happy to be home. But assuming the cat on their doorstep was actually Howie, whether he was really happy to see the Hicks or just their air conditioning is another matter entirely. The Husky's Tale. While stopping for a rest during a road trip close to Railroad Valley, Nevada in 2008, Doug Dyschel's Siberian Husky Moon leapt from his truck. And when the bolt on her chain accidentally came loose, Moon charged off into the brush. Doug searched for his furry companion for hours before informing the authorities and driving home to Eli, 75 miles away. After a week had passed, Doug doubted he'd ever see Moon again. But on the 8th day, Moon was finally spotted. Not in Railroad Valley where he'd disappeared, but in Doug's neighborhood. This incredible dog had made the trek on foot across the Ward mountain range through the unforgetting Nevada desert to make it home, and all in just a week. While some people doubt that Moon made it home without any human help, Doug was simply pleased to have her back, although he did comment on how she smelled like skunk on her return, clearly having had some wild encounters on her long journey home. Sheltie surprise. Dog lovers know that canine loyalty is a phenomenon that knows no bounds, something which was proven by Gigi the Sheltie, who went missing back in 2018. Before she disappeared, Gigi had been rehomed by the Anton family who lived in Frankfort, New York. Knowing their family friend Dick Green could provide a loving home in the nearby town of Mohawk, they suggested he adopted Gigi. But after just 1 week in her new home, in the middle of winter, Gigi ran away. For weeks, Dick and the Antons searched high and low for the Sheltie, spending hours in the area's snowy hills and roads trying to track her down. Then, 16 days later, Gigi simply trotted into the Antons' garage. After tracking all her reported sightings and movements, the Antons realized she had traveled along the road in the wrong direction before doubling back on herself and finding her way home. Seeing how much she clearly missed her real home, Dick gave Gigi back. I'd be willing to bet Dick's waiting for the day his temporary canine pal makes her next big adventure, hopefully a return visit to his house. The mountain climbing cat. When the Flitton family traveled to Salt Lake City, Utah to get their boat repaired in 2016, they hadn't realized they'd brought the family cat along for the ride. Mittens, the family's black and white cat, had snuck under the boat's tarp when no one was looking and inadvertently tagged along for the journey. When the mechanics pulled the boat cover back, Mittens jumped out and ran away. The family searched for Mittens as best they could, but to no avail. Distraught, they headed home to Mountain Green, roughly 30 miles away. But Mittens was just beginning his own long journey home. He traversed the mountains between Salt Lake City and Mountain Green for almost 4 months before being found in the neighboring Park City. After a vet treated the cat's injured feet, he checked its microchip and was astounded to see how close he had been to finding his way home.
He was able to get through Salt Lake City to the mountains and head the right direction. I mean, there's so many directions to go.
He was eventually reunited with the Flittons, who had given up hope of finding their furry companion. Fortunately for them, Mittens ain't no quitter. The dog lost at sea. Taking your pets out into the water can be incredible fun, but only if they know how to handle the waves. That's what Belgian Malinois puppy Riley learned when she accidentally fell overboard her owner's boat into the waters of Lake Michigan in 2016. Edward and Kristen Cassis only noticed after 10 minutes that Riley wasn't on board and she was nowhere to be seen in the water. But having started training Riley as a search and rescue dog, they kept their hopes up that her training would help her survive. And rightly so, because Riley had already started swimming towards land. In the course of just one day, she swam across 6 miles of water and then walked 12 miles in an exhausting attempt to find her family. The next day, a call from the Platte River campground informed the Castas that Riley had been found alive. When they arrived, an exhausted Riley ran out of the forest, clearly happy to be with her owners. Or at the very least, pleased to be back on dry land. Castaway Canine. There's been more than one instance of a dog getting lost at sea. In a story that shocked the nation of Australia, a dog named Sophie Tucker fell off the side of Owen Griffith's boat into the choppy waters of Mackay Coast, Queensland. Owen was devastated after realizing she disappeared, but unbeknownst to him, Sophie had been determined to survive. She fearlessly swam almost 5 nautical miles through shark-infested waters to the nearby island of St. Bees. But that was only half the story. In order to survive on the island, this pampered indoor dog learned to hunt the island's wild goats. After 5 months on the goatogenic diet, she was spotted by local rangers who picked her up and informed Owen of his pet's incredible survival story. When Sophie was returned to her owners on the shore, she was so happy that she nearly flattened them with affection, which I imagine looked something like this. I just hope Sophie's welcome home meal wasn't goat stew. The stolen horse. One morning in September 2019, Cindy Thomas awoke to find that the gates of her horse pen in Edmonton, Canada were open. She counted her 5 other horses, but the 6th, called Molly, was nowhere to be seen. She couldn't find Molly's tracks outside of the area, and with news of horse theft in the area on the rise, she assumed Molly had been stolen. However, on Christmas Eve, she received a phone call from her neighbor claiming Molly was in their front garden. Sure enough, in a new kind of Christmas miracle, the mare had inexplicably found her way home after being missing for 3 months. Aside from a foot infection caused by too much standing and some minor weight loss, Molly appeared reasonably well looked after. This led Cindy to believe someone may have initially stolen her horse before releasing her, or perhaps Molly made a great escape of her own. With no one coming forward to take credit for bringing her back, Molly had seemingly made her own way home in time for Christmas. Move aside, Rudolph. There's a new animal in town with an even bigger Christmas spirit. A special visitor. Mercy Hospital in Cedar Rapids, Iowa helps all kinds of people. But in 2015, one furry visitor was caught on their CCTV that they certainly weren't expecting. This is Sissy, an 11-year-old white miniature schnauzer that traveled 20 blocks in search of her owner, Nancy Frank. Her quest led her to Cedar Rapids Hospital where Nancy was recovering from surgery. When she was spotted at the entrance, a security guard read Sissy's tags, which included her address, and realized just how far the little dog had come. They rang Nancy's husband Dale, who stunned the guard when he informed them that his wife was receiving treatment at that same hospital. But the really strange thing is that Sissy had never been to that hospital before. It's a total mystery how Sissy ever managed to find her way back to her much-missed owner. Some view the whole thing as an example of a dog's incredible sense of smell in action, or even just pure coincidence. But others believe it was an act of incredible loyalty that simply shows how far dogs will go for the ones they love. Either that or, for some reason known only to dogs, Sissy just really wanted to try hospital food. Which of these heartwarming stories hit you right in the feels? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.